نعم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وارزقنا علما تنفعنا به وأحسن ختامنا. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send prayers and salutation for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, household and companions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with all of them. Amin. Inshallah ta'ala, we going to take two lessons today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We're going to take first the ahadith that we're supposed to take due to certain reasons we are not able to take it or to take them. Then inshallah, within an hour, we'll take the lesson that we're supposed to have today, which is the 100 questions and answers in Aqidah, inshallah ta'ala. Ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala for tawfiq and make everything easy for us all. Amin. طيب. كتاب الصيام. We've taken introductions about fasting in our past lessons. Then today inshallah we'll start the ahadith يعني الصيام في عمدة الأحكام للإمام عبد الغني المقدسي رحمه الله تعالى. قال رحمه الله تعالى كتاب الصيام. The Imam, he said كتاب الصيام. And this bab is specifically going to speak about things that are connected to fasting, the ahkam that are connected to fasting, and some of the virtues that are connected to fasting. Now, Kitabu as-Siyam, we've taken the meaning of fasting, so there is no need for us to go into that again, inshallah. الحديث يعني الأول الذي ذكره المؤلف بارك الله فيه ورحمه الله وجزاه الله خيرا عن الإسلام والمسلمين قال عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تقدم رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما فليصومه أخرجه البخاري ومسلم واللفظ له. This hadith is narrated by Abu Huraira. Firstly, this hadith is narrated by Abu Huraira, and Al-Imam Bukhari and Al-Imam Muslim made takhrij of this hadith. That is, these wordings that we have in this hadith, these are the wordings of Sahih Muslim. What are the wordings of Al-Imam Bukhari? Al-Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, his own wordings, he said in his book, Al-Jami' Sahih, باب لا يتقدمن رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين. حدثنا مسلم ابن إبراهيم حدثنا هشام حدثنا يحيى ابن أبي كثير عن أبي سلمة عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يتقدمن أحدكم رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين إلا أن يكون رجل كان يصوم صومه فليصوم ذلك اليوم. رواه يعني البخاري. This is the lafz of Imam Bukhari. The lafz that Imam Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi rahimahullah mentioned is the lafz of Sahih Muslim. طيب. Firstly, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu is from the virtues of the companions. His name is Abdurrahman ibn Sakhri ad-Dawsi. Abdurrahman ibn Sakhri ad-Dawsi. The scholars, they've got differences about his real name, but the scholars have said some of them, they got the correct opinion that his name is Abdurrahman ibn Sakhri ad-Dawsi. That is why Al-Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah in his Arba'in, he mentioned his name Abdurrahman ibn Sakhri ad-Dawsi. And most of the scholars, they've got this, that it is the correct opinion. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he was from the people who narrated a lot of hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Huraira, Aisha, Abdullah ibn Umar. These are the three greatest companions who narrated more ahadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam than the other companions. Abu Huraira radiallahu ta'ala an, the Shia, the Rafida, and the likes of the Rafida, the Mustashriqun, the Orientalists, they claim that Abu Huraira radiallahu an is a liar. They claim that Abu Huraira radiallahu an, he did not accept Islam yani early, but the narrations which he narrated from the Prophet ﷺ are more than what the time he took with the Prophet ﷺ. They said one of the reasons, because of this, they said because Abu Huraira is a liar. How can he narrate all of these ahadith other than the other companions? Abu Huraira himself have answered to this claim. Then the Prophet, before we go to that, the Prophet ﷺ testified that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu is someone who is very eager to learn and memorize the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ and act upon them. In the hadith of Shafa'ah, Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala and he asked the Prophet ﷺ, Man as'adu nas bi shafa'atika yawm al-qiyamah? Who is the greatest of people or the happiest of people that will receive your shafa'ah yawm al-qiyamah? That will receive your shafa'ah yawm al-qiyamah. The Prophet ﷺ said, لَقَدْ ظَنَنْتُ يعني لَقَدْ تَيَقَّنْتُ أَلَّا يَسْأَلْنِي أَحَدًا يعني هذا أَلَّا يَسْأَلْنِي أَحَدًا مِنْكَ أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet ﷺ said, I was certain that no one, the word dhan here, the word dhan here is not yani thinking. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَظَنَّ أَنَّهُ الْفِرَاقِ. The dhan here is not what you think. The dhan is yaqeen. وَظَنَّ أَنَّهُ الْفِرَاقِ. The dhan which is thinking, Allah said, إِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. This is the dhan that is thinking. But the dhan which is mentioned in this hadith, لَقَدْ تَيَقَّنْتُ عفوا لَقَدْ ظَنَنْتُ Allah يسألني. This here is يعني يَقَّنْتُ. I am certain. The Prophet is affirming that he was certain that no one will ask him a question like this before Abu Huraira. لما رأى من حرصك على الحديث. This is the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, because I see you are very eager in learning the hadith. And Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, he is from the greatest and the virtues of the companions. He said, the Sahaba, that the Muhajirun and the Ansar, they were busy, some of them were busy in business, like the Ansar. The Muhajir, the people of the Ansar were busy in market, farming, whilst the Ansar, some of them were busy in business, and both of them were busy in business and trading, farming. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, he said, because of this, some of the Ansar and the Muhajirun, they were not able to stay long with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I am someone who is weak. I don't have any job that will take me away from sitting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the morning, in the evening, at night, anytime, anywhere. I'm with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Naam. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, he was always with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam since he accepted Islam and he went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So those who claim that Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala is a liar, they say, "La, you don't know Islam." Abu Hurairah, ayatu min ayatillah, is from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The narration that we mentioned before, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said one day the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about he said he said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, most times when he hears something from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he forgets. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell him to spread like his cloth like. From that day, Abu Hurairah said, he said, فَمَا نَسِيتُ شَيْئًا سَمِعْتُهُ مِنْهُ صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, from that day, I have never forgot anything that I heard from him. It's like a dua the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made for Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala. And this is as a result of the ayah which Allah says, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Verily, we have sent the dhikr. The dhikr here يشتمل الدين أو يتضمن الدين كله. It comprises of the deen completely. The Quran, the Sunnah. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ. The dhikr here can be the Quran, can be the Sunnah, because the Sunnah and the Quran mix up the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. لَحَافِظُونَ. Verily, we are the ones that preserve this deen. So there is nothing which Abu Hurairah anhu narrated which was false. And even the Sahaba, they testified for him that. That is Abdullah ibn Umar, for example. He testified that Abu Hurairah, you are the greatest of the people who have memorized more ahadith than anyone from the companions. This is the statement of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma and the other companions. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was an ayah from the ayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was from the greatest of the people who narrated more narrations than all the companions. Abu Hurairah, Abdullah ibn Umar, Aisha. These are the three greatest. And the others, they narrated, but not as this level as Abu Hurairah. Then the hadith we have here is, the topic of the hadith is حكم سبك رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين. The ruling in preceding Ramadan, 1 or 2 days in fasting. This is the topic of the hadith. The ruling in preceding Ramadan, 1 or 2 days. As we mentioned that this hadith is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. Then there are other some A'immah who have made takhrij of this hadith too. But sufficient that Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim made takhrij of the hadith. Sufficient is that for the Ummah, because Kitab Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, these are the greatest and the most authentic book after the Quran. There is no book on the face of the earth which is more authentic than the book of Bukhari, Al-Imam Bukhari, and Al-Imam Muslim ibn Hajjaj, رحمهم الله تعالى وغفر الله له وسائر علماء الإسلام. Amin. طيب. We said the topic is what? حكم سبك رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقدموا رمضان. Here, let's explain the wordings of the hadith first. Let's translate the wording of the hadith. Then from there, we'll try to benefit, make istinbat from the ahkam which the scholars they've derived. Not these ahkam that we're going to mention here from this hadith or ahadith. It is not from ourselves. It is from the scholars. بارك الله فيهم وجزاهم الله خيرا ورحم من مات منهم وحفظ من في قيد الحياة منهم. آمين. آمين. طيب. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقدموا. Do not precede Ramadan. بصوم يوم ولا يومين. Either by fasting one day or 2 days. إلا رجل, except someone كان يصوم صوما, who has been used to fast, يعني he has a habitual fasting. If these 2 days fall within, يعني his habitual fasting falls within the last 2 days of Sha'ban, فليصوم. Let this person fast. This is the love of Imam Muslim. The love of Imam Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا يتقدمن أحدكم رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين. He said, let one of you should not precede Ramadan 1 or 2 days in fasting, إلا أن يكون رجل كان يصوم صومه, except there is a man who has a habitual fasting, فليصوم ذلك اليوم. If this habitual fasting falls within these last 2 days of Sha'ban, then let the person fast, inshallah ta'ala. طيب. Now, this is the translation of the hadith in brief. The ahkam that are made from this hadith, the istinbatat which the ulama have done from this hadith are many. And there are many masail of this hadith. Number 1, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقدموا رمضان. Is it permissible for us to say Ramadan without adding Shahr Ramadan? Is it permissible? The scholars, they've got difference of opinion here. Some of them, they said it is not permissible. What is their evidence? They said because the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقولوا رمضان بل قولوا شهر رمضان لأن رمضان اسم من أسماء الله. This hadith, some of the scholars, they said this hadith is not authentic. They said this hadith is not authentic. طيب. Then the scholars who said that it is permissible, they've mentioned evidences to support their own claim, rahimahumullah. Like, for example, Al-Imam Bukhari in his Sahih, he made a special chapter in his Sahih where he said, Babun hal yuqalu Ramadanu aw shahru Ramadan. Can one say, this is a chapter, can one say Ramadan or one should say Shahr Ramadan, make idafa. Then Al-Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, he mentioned 3 ahadith, 3 narrations that's specific, that says we can call Ramadan without adding Shahr Ramadan. Al-Imam Bukhari said, وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من صام رمضان. Then وقال لا تقدم رمضان. وقال حدثنا قتيبة حدثنا إسماعيل بن جعفر عن أبي سهيل عن أبيه عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا جاء رمضان فتحت أبواب الجنة. طيب. These are the 3 narrations that Imam Bukhari mentioned as a support of the statement that we can say Ramadan without adding Shahr Ramadan. Without adding Shahr Ramadan. Because if it was not permissible, the Prophet ﷺ would have not mentioned these words in the narration, in different narrations. Some of the people that said it is not permissible to say Shahr Ramadan, they say because Allah said in the Quran, Shahru Ramadan. Allah did not say Ramadan alone. And the ahadith that is only mentioned Ramadan is from the tasarrufat of the ruwat, the narrators of the hadith. It is because of some of their mistakes which they did in narrating those ahadith that mentioned Ramadan without adding Shahru Ramadan. But this claim again is not correct, because these ahadith are narrated by more than 1 or 2 or 3 companions. How can all of these companions make mistake? And this is not, this هذا غير معقول. هذا غير معقول. This is not something that the sense can accept. Naam. How can all of these companions, these narrators, these Sahaba and Tabi'in, the Atba'u Tabi'in, all of them get mistake in that? This is not يعني غير معقول. طيب, the hujjah is hujjah ضعيفة, حجة ضعيفة. طيب, this is the first mas'ala here. بارك الله فيكم. Then the second mas'ala is, why was Ramadan called as Ramadan? The scholars, they said it was called as Ramadan because it burns the sins. Yani, in the month of Ramadan, the sins are burnt completely. Someone enters Ramadan whilst he is sinful. Maybe he has been written from the people of Jahannam when entering Ramadan. Then before Ramadan ends, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will purify him as if he was born today. Now, Allah will purify him as if he was given birth. He was given birth to today. So this tells us that in Ramadan, they name it because it burns up all the sins that someone has committed. Now, this is second masala. The third masala, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين إلا رجل كان يصوم صوما. The ulama, they've got a consensus, ittifaq, that it is permissible for the person who has a habitual fasting. Give me a second, please. They said, I made a mistake before. The ulama, they've got a consensus that it is not permissible for the one. اتفق العلماء على أنه لا اتفق العلماء على أنه لا يجوز. The ulama, they've got consensus that the person who does not have an ada, he does not have a habitual fasting before Ramadan, that is Mondays and Thursdays, or the 3 days of Ayyam al-Bayt, or the 3 days in each month, or maybe the fast of Dawood. If the person does not have this habitual fasting, the ulama, they've got a consensus أنه لا يجوز أن يتقدم رمضان إذا كان ليس له عادة. If no one, a person does not have an ada, then it is not permissible for him to precede Ramadan 1 or 2 days. طيب, then واتفقوا رحمهم الله على أنه من كان له فرض من الصيام فله أن يصوم رمضان، فله أن يصوم ذاك اليومين أو ذاك اليومين إذا حصل وقته خلال يومين قبل رمضان. That is, if the person is for example, he has an obligation of fasting, like another, for example, he has took another that he's going to fast this so and so day, but this so and so day which he made falls within this last 2 days of Sha'ban. The scholars, they've got a consensus that if the person have a fast which is an obligation, there is no problem for him to fast, or he has a missed days that he must make up for the past Ramadan, then there is no problem for him. اتفق على أنه على أن من له فرض فله أن يصوم في ذلك اليومين. The person who has a fasting, a habitual fasting, or he has a law fasting, like missed days in Ramadan, or he has another, or maybe he must fast for someone from his family, which as the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever passed away and he has missed days, then someone who you. This type of fastings, if the person fasts within these 2 days that are remaining before Ramadan, there is no problem for him. This is ittifaq. واختلفوا على من ليس له عادة. Then they've got a difference here. They've got ittifaq in 2 things. Who can mention them? Barakallahu fikum. Who can mention them? They've got consensus in 2 things. Number 1, that is, they've got a consensus that whoever had a habitual fasting, there is no problem for him to fast within the last 2 days before Ramadan. Then they've got a consensus that whoever have a fard upon him, then there is no problem for him to fast. These are the 2 places where they got consensus. Then they've got ikhtilaf. In ikhtilaf, they said whoever does not have ada, is it permissible for him to fast or not permissible? The ulama, the jumhur, they said yakrahu, al-jumhur yakrahuna dhalik. The jumhur, they hate someone to precede Ramadan 1 or 2 days if this person does not have an ada. What is their proof? They said the hadith is their proof, and the other ahadith is their proof. طيب, the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم ولا يومين. If the Prophet ﷺ have stopped there, they said, then it will be haram for someone to fast. But because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِلَّا رَجُلٌ كَانَ يَصُومُ صَوْمًا, they said the Prophet ﷺ made istithna, exception. So because of this istithna, this makes it yani ikrahan, yani karahatan for someone to fast within the other days. Then they said Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith that yani man sama yawm fi sabilillah ba'ad Allah wajahu an الناس 70 kharifa al-hadith أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. That Prophet ﷺ mentioned that whoever fast one day for in the path of Allah, Allah will yani his face far away from Jahannam for 70 years. 70 kharif, yani 70 years. As there is another narration that explains the kharifa. طيب. So some of the scholars who said it is ikra or makruh, this is their evidence that use. This is the statement of the Jumhur. The statement of Jumhur. Why? The other yani from the scholars, they said it is haram for someone to precede Ramadan 1 or 2 days if he does not have an ada. The first one, he does not have an ada. They said it is makruh. Why? Because there are many ahadith that urge us to fast. That urge us to fast. And even they mention ahadith like the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, which Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that she have not seen the Prophet ﷺ fasting any month completely except Ramadan. And she has not seen the Prophet ﷺ increase in fasting in any month after Ramadan more than yani, like Sha'ban. So they said again, this hadith is a narration that affirms that it is yani, it is permissible. Then from there, they mentioned again the hadith. طيب, now, then those who said it is haram, they mentioned the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا انْتَصَفَ شَعْبَانَ فَلَا تَصُومُوا. If Sha'ban splits into 2, there is 15 days of Sha'ban have passed, then you must not fast. You must not fast. طيب, this hadith, some of the scholars, they've said it is not authentic. And some of them said it is authentic, like Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah. He made this hadith authentic. The issue of tasheeh wa tad'if, each ulama has his own shurut of making, they're making tasheehat of the ahadith, or making tad'if of the ahadith. So if this scholar said this hadith is da'if, this other scholar said this hadith is a sahih, you as a student of knowledge, you must go into the amr, the thing, and do your research, and read. Firstly, what you do is you gather all the narrations that are speaking about this mas'ala. This is the first thing. Then secondly, you study the ruwat of the hadith first. Then from there, the ilal that are found in this hadith. Ala kulli hal, this is not something that is connected to this topic, as we don't need to go into that. But inshallah, we'll find the time to explain things like this, inshallah. But بالمناسبة, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned إذا انتصف شعبان فلا تصوموا. So some of the ulama, they said this hadith is daif. Some of them, they said this hadith is daif. And some of them, they have ilal, they have reasons, asbab that said that they said this hadith is daif. Then Shaykh al-Albani is from those that said it is authentic. Now, the scholars have said this hadith is authentic. They said it is not permissible for someone to fast after the 15 days of Ramadan till Ramadan comes. Then they said, those that say it is the hadith is daif, they said it is permissible for someone to fast except the last 2 days of Ramadan because of this hadith that we have here. طيب. This is the qawl of the other scholars of ulama. We are not the Jumhur. Now, there is a narration that Al-Imam Bukhari mentioned, the hadith of Imran ibn Husayn radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. When the Prophet ﷺ asked, this is in Bukhari, the man that if he has fast his habitual fasting which he used to fast, the man said, La, I have not fasted that. The man said, La. What the Prophet ﷺ told him, the Prophet ﷺ said, then if Ramadan ends, make up for those days. So the scholars, they said, here, it tells us that the person who has the habitual fasting, there is no problem for him to fast. And in this hadith, they said, it is permissible for someone to make up for actions or ibadat which you have been used to do these ibadat, but because of an excuse, then he makes up for them. For example, You have been used to fast Mondays and Thursdays. Then maybe you fall ill within Monday. Let's say tomorrow, Thursday, for example. You have used to fast Mondays and Thursdays. Then tomorrow you fall ill. You are not able to fast. Next tomorrow, then Saturday and Sunday, you became okay, or you become okay. What you do is you're going to make up for this missed days. It's permissible because of this narration. Because of these narrations. طيب. نعم. لا تقدموا رمضان. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقدموا رمضان. Do not precede Ramadan. Some of the scholars who mentioned, they said the nahyu lil karaha. Some of them they said للتحريم. للتحريم. والقول الصحيح للتحريم إلا من كان له عادة أو كان له فرض. The قول الصحيح is tahrim, that it is haram for anyone to fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan, except the person that have an excuse. Except the person that have an excuse and the habitual fasting, or he has a fard, they need to make up for them. There is no problem for him. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقدموا رمضان بصوم يوم أو يومين يومين أو يومين. If someone say, okay, no, I'm going to fast 3 days, because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned only 2 days here. I'm going to fast 3 days. This is not permissible for anyone to do. This is not permissible for anyone to do. Yani, one should not do that. Instead, one should make to avoid these kind of things. يعني احتياطا لدينه, to protect his deen, يعني وحفاظا يعني احتياطا وحفاظا لدينه, so that he must not fall into sins, and to preserve his religion, his deen. طيب بارك الله فيكم. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, إلا رجل. Here, إلا من أداة الاستثناء is an article that is used to make exceptions. غير أداة, these are أداة الاستثناء. طيب إلا, here the Prophet ﷺ said إلا رجل, except a man. إلا رجل. رجل, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the man. Does that mean only this hukum only belongs to men? The scholars, they said النساء شقائق الرجال في الأحكام إلا بدليل يخص النساء أو يخص الرجال. They said the women and the men are equal when it comes to the ahkam of the Sharia. No one has the right to say this hukum or this rule is specifically for men, or this hukum is specifically for women. No one has the right, except there is an evidence that makes it specifically for women, or there is an evidence that makes it specifically for men. Other than that, no one has the right to do so. So here, the Prophet ﷺ said, Rajulun. That means both men and women comes in the hadith. Either you are a man or a woman, you should not precede Ramadan. And in the beginning, the Prophet said, لا تقدموا رمضان. In the narration of Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Bukhari, لا يتقدمن أحدكم. أحدكم. This again is a common noun. أحد, the common noun. Then the kum is a mudaf ilayhi. هذا يقوم. طيب, this is make it general. This makes it general that a man or a woman is not permissible for one of us to precede Ramadan 1 or 2 days. Then a man or a woman, if he has a habitual fasting, there is no problem for him to fast. Naam, there is no problem for him to fast. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَلْيَسُمْهُ. The command here, is it wajib or mustahab? The scholars, they said, the command here, it can be wajib if the person have used to. Then, they said it can be wajib if the person has obligational fastings. Then it can be mustahab if the person has habitual fasting. It can be wajib if you have obligational fasting. That is must if you've set up the days to fast within these days. For example, you have days in Ramadan that you've not make up for. Then this Ramadan is coming. Then it has remained 2 days. Here is upon you wajib to make up for these 2 days that have left, even if it falls the last 2 days of Sha'ban. Then if you have been fasting these 2 days, these other days, maybe you have been used to fast, habitual fasting, then you miss them because of certain excuses, then you want to make up for them within these 2 days, there is mustahab for you to do so. It's mustahab for you to do so. Barakallahu fikum. طيب. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَلْيَسُمْهُ. فَلْيَسُمْهُ. طيب. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she mentioned, inshallah, is from the hadith that we're going to take. Maybe we can take the hadith when we reach there, inshallah. The second hadith. We have the second hadith. What is the second hadith? Maybe can anyone send the how do I call it? The English translation of this book? I don't know. I was having it, but I don't have it now. I don't know. Maybe you can send the PDF inshallah in the chat so that brothers can benefit. Barakallahu fikum. طيب. Now let's read the second hadith. The second hadith is the hadith of who? نعم. بارك الله فيكم. من الراوي الحديث الثاني يعني من كتاب يعني الصيام في عمدة الأحكام؟ نعم. ألا تتكلمون؟ ألا تتكلموا يا إخوة؟ بارك الله فيكم. I don't like when brothers yani do not say anything. We are here to learn. We are not here to just give the la. We are all here to learn. We are all students. Or maybe some of you are better than us. Wallah. Naam. And I'm certain that most of you are better than us. Wallah. So we need to يعني تعاون إن شاء الله. بارك الله فيكم. طيب. We have the second hadith, which is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar رضي الله تعالى عنهما. عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سامحك الله يا مصطفى قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إذا رأيتموه فصوموا وإذا رأيتموه فأفطروا فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. This hadith is narrated by أخرجه البخاري ومسلم, by Imam Bukhari wa Muslim. We know Umdat al-Ahkam is a book that yani the ulama, the alim, al-Imam Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, he mentioned a hadith there and he removed their asanid from them. طيب, these are referred to ahadith غير مسندة. يعني the ahadith that are mentioned without their asanid. طيب, the ahadith al-musnada, these are the ahadith that are mentioned, for example, in Bukhari, Muslim. So like al-Imam Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, rahimahullah, he mentioned the ahadith of al-Bukhari and Muslim and mentioned them here. Sometimes he can say this hadith is Sahih Rawahu al-Bukhari, but sometimes if you go to Bukhari, you cannot see the actual wordings that he mentioned here. That means there is a wordings, but not the same wordings of the wordings that he mentioned. For example, the hadith that we just passed, Al-Imam Muslim, his own wordings, that is what Al-Imam Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi mentioned here. But he said أخرجه البخاري ومسلم واللفظ له واللفظ له. بارك الله فيكم. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا رأيتموه فصوموا وإذا رأيتموه فأفطروا فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. Abdullah ibn Umar رضي الله تعالى عنه is from the greatest of the companions who narrated a hadith, more ahadith, with Abu Huraira and Aisha, Abu Huraira, Aisha, Abdullah ibn Umar. These are the three greatest of the companions who narrated more narrations than any of the other companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he was very, 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 very strict when it comes to implementing the Sunnah and avoiding Bid'ah. Very, very strict. Radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. He was someone who was very young, but subhanallah, he was rajul min al-rijal. Today we have dhukur. We don't have rijal today. We have dhukur. Most of these people that call themselves rijal, we have dhukur. That is why Sheikh Fala rahimahullah ta'ala, I had him from one of his sharib, his lessons, not present in his lesson, I was listening in a video, like he mentioned Sheikh al-Imam Hilal al-Imam, the name escapes me, Taqiyuddin al-Hilali rahimahullah ta'ala. He said that there was a time when two people went to al-Imam Taqiyuddin al-Hilali rahimahullah ta'ala. هذا من اللطائف إن شاء الله. These two men went there, and the man who went to tell al-Imam Taqiyuddin, he said there are two rijal أو رجلين أو رجلان who came to see al-Imam Taqiyuddin. Al-Imam Taqiyuddin, this is the statement of the Sheikh Fala rahimahullah was narrating this. He said al-Imam Taqiyuddin said, they have come companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, there are companions, we have companions, mashallah, we have companions of the Prophet ﷺ amongst us. So it's like the people that we are sitting, they are feeling strange. What kind of statement is this? This man said there are two people come to visit you. Then he said we have companions. Just because the man said Rajulan. Al-Imam Taqi mentioned that we don't have rijal today. We have dhukur. We have dhukur. Most of us that call ourselves rijal, we are not rijal in reality. We are dhukur. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع حولهم الرجال رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله حولهم الرجال أنتم ذكور فكونوا من الرجال. أسأل الله سبحانه يجعلني وإياكم من الرجال آمين. هذا من اللطائف إن شاء الله، ربنا يبارك فيكم آمين. طيب Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, as we mentioned, it was from the virtues of the companions, and the Prophet ﷺ used to love him more and more and more and more. The Prophet ﷺ used to love Abdullah ibn Umar more, Allah. And there was a time when the Prophet ﷺ asked about a tree which is like a Muslim who is beneficial to the people and the creation anytime in the winter and the summer. And he asked, which tree is that? Most of the companions did not know the answer. Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, I was knowing the answer. But because there was a lot of big elders among the companions, and even his father was present, he did not answer. And he said the date, the tree, Nakhla, Shajarat Nakhla. So Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma is from the virtues of the companions radiallahu anhu, and he narrates more ahadith. And he was very young, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. There was a benefit here. We have a young Sahabi narrated a hadith of the Prophet without saying that he had it from other companions. The Prophet said, like for example, this hadith. Abdullah ibn Umar said, "Qala sami'tu Rasulullah." Abdullah ibn Umar was big enough at that time. He was not very very young like Nu'man ibn Bashir. We have companions. This type of hadith, they call it as mursal al-sahab. We have companions from the Sahaba. These companions, they were very small and young before the Prophet ﷺ passed away. So, but they saw the Prophet ﷺ and they had one or two things from the Prophet ﷺ. But some of these companions, time will come, they will narrate, they said, Qala Rasulullah. Or they will say, Sami'tu Rasulullah ﷺ. Even though maybe they will have took these narrations from other companions. Like for example, Abdullah ibn Abbas or Nu'man ibn Bashir. Most of these companions, they were young before the Prophet ﷺ passed away. But some of them, they narrate narrations without saying, Qala Abu Huraira, Qala Rasulullah, or Qala Abu Bakr, Qala Rasulullah. They said instantly, Qala Sami'tu Rasulullah, or Qala Rasulullah, or Haddathani Rasulullah, or Akhbarani Rasulullah. Sami'tu, هذا من أعلى الطرق التحمل الحديث. تحمل الحديث. The way of taking hadith from the scholars. This is one of the taking hadith from the scholars, seeking knowledge from the scholars. سمعت أخبرنا أو أنبأنا أو حدثنا. These are one of the some of the turuq of tahammul which are عالي جدا عالي أو عالية جدا. So like Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhu, he was a Sahabi. His father and mother was a Sahabiyan, Ridwanullah alayhim. He was very small. He was around the age of 1 to 10, around that when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. But he narrated some ahadi like al-halal bayyin al-haram bayyin. Now, so here, if a young Sahabi narrates a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, and we are certain that this Sahabi was young before the death of the Prophet ﷺ, this type of hadith, most times the scholars, they call them as what? Mursal al-Sahabi. That is, where the Sahabi said, Qala Rasulullah mubashara, when he has not heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. And the irsal of a Sahabi is sahih, or the Mursal al-Sahabi is sahih. That is, if a Sahabi said things like this, which he has not heard him from the Prophet ﷺ himself, his hadith is authentic. Why? Because kulluhum udud. All of the Sahaba, they are udud. None of them amongst them have any attributes of the Fusqa, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Then, if we have another type of irsal, which is mursal al-tabi'i, and this is too much, the irsal of the tabi'in. That is, for example, Sayyid ibn Musayyib, rahimahullah ta'ala, will say, Qala Rasulullah. Qala Rasulullah. Or Al-Hasan al-Basri, for example, will say, Qala Rasulullah. That means what? Maybe Sayyid ibn Musayyib, Al-Hasan al-Basri, have removed one of the tabi'i which he took from, maybe he has not took this hadith from a Sahabi. Or maybe he took it from more than 2-3 people to the Prophet ﷺ. So that is why most times the scholars have said that is why Al-Imam al-Baiquni said rahimahullah ta'ala wal-mursalu minhu sahabi sihhat. Even though some of the scholars they have a lot of definitions of irsal of al-hadith al-mursal. طيب بارك الله فيكم. نعم. قال سمعت رسول الله. Inshallah we will find the time to explain al-Baiquniya as this is one of the poems that are very simple and is a beginner's poem to ilm al-mustalah hadith that maybe it's beneficial to us inshallah, but as time goes inshallah we'll set dates for that. May Allah guide us all. بارك الله فيكم. طيب قال سمعت I heard. That means this is one he was there was no one between him and the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. يقول I heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said إذا رأيتموه. Let's translate the hadith first. Its wordings, then from there we'll speak about the masail that are found in the hadith. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said إذا رأيتموه. If you see it, what specifically he's speaking about here, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He's speaking about what? The moon of Ramadan. Fasumu is upon you to fast. وَإِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ. If you see it, what? The crescent of Sha'ban. Sorry, Shawwal. فَأَفْتِرُوا, break your fast. فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. That is the cloud. If the cloud may be due to the weather, you are not able to sight the moon, فَقْدُرُوا لَهُ. Complete Sha'ban 30 days. There are narrations that explains faqdurula. That is why from the manhaj of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, if we have masail or mas'ala, which this mas'ala has more than 2 or 3 or 4 narrations, and these narrations are authentic, for you to be safe from making the wrong hukum is you put together these narrations and come with a result that will make you act upon all the narrations together, as long as these narrations are authentic. For example, this hadith, فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَقْدُرُوا لَهُ. فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. There are other narrations in Bukhari and Muslim that explains فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. For example, Al-Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, one of the A'immah of Hadith, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, وَلِمُسْلِمٍ وللبخاري فأكملوا عدة 30. That is in بلوغ المرام. Then he mentioned ولمسلم فإن أغمي عليكم فقدروا له 30. وله وله من بخاري من حديث البخاري في حديث بخاري أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه فأكملوا عدة شعبان 30. عدة شعبان 30. So we've known the meaning of فإن غم عليكم فقدروا له. So if we just say we're going to suffice ourselves with this one hadith, which Al-Imam Abdul Ghani mentioned, this will cause fitna for us. That is the same thing with the hadith, as-sadiq al-masduq, where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna ahadakum yujma'u khalqu fi batni ummi." The Prophet ﷺ said at the end of the hadith, فَوَاللَّهِ الَّذِي لَا إِلَهَ غَيْرُهُ إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ لَيَعْمَلُ بِعَمَلِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراع فيسبق عليه الكتاب فيعمل بعمل أهل النار فيدخلها وإن أحدكم ليعمل بعمل أهل النار حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراع فيسبق عليه الكتاب فيعمل بعمل أهل الجنة فيدخلها. Someone can listen this hadith, then says, then why Allah will put us in Jahannam if everything have been written for us? Then let's go back to another narration. The Prophet ﷺ said, فِيمَا يَبْدُو لِلنَّاسِ. ظاهرا, the action is good deed, action is ظاهرا. لكن باطنا ليس لله. ليس لله. So when you put together the narrations, you're going to free yourself from misguidance. That is why most of the fitna you see, most of the bid'ah is as a result of separating things that are alike and combining things which are different. جمع المتفرقات التفريق بين المتماثلات. Separating things that are alike and combining things which are not the same, or forgetting about the narration, one narration, and just taking one narration and make hukum. This is one of the results that leads to a lot of the bid'ah that you see out there today. May Allah save us. طيب. So the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَقَدْرُوا لَهُ, complete Sha'ban 30 days. There are a lot of masail which the ulama, they've made istinbat of in these narrations. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all ikhlas and tawfiq. Amin. قال رحمه الله قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنا بالله بن إذا رأيتموه فصوموا. إذا رأيتموه, if you see the moon. Who the Prophet is speaking to? إذا من أداة الشرط. إذا رأيتموه, if you see it. يعني the Prophet is speaking directly to who? To the Muslims. فصوموا. If you see the moon, then you must fast. وإذا رأيتموه فأفطروا. If you see another moon, you must break the fast. Here, the first masala that we're going to mention here is the Prophet ﷺ said, if you see the moon. Now let's say Saudi Arabia is the greatest of the country that is on the face of the earth today that calls the people to Tawheed and the Sunnah and respect and honor the scholars of the Sunnah. There is no country like Saudi Arabia today. None. And he is from the country of Islam. Forget about the people, the Khawarij and the Ikhwanis, what they say. Forget about them. Do not listen to them. هؤلاء لا خلاق لهم. Nah, forget about them. Now, Saudi Arabia, for example, if Saudi said, we've sighted the moon, then Sierra Leone, so we've not sighted the moon. Can Sierra Leone, for example, other countries fast because they've not sighted the moon, and they can fast because Saudi have sighted the moon? This hadith is an evidence for the scholars who said it is permissible for the other countries in the world to fast if one of the Muslim countries have testified that they've seen the moon. Then there is a narration again, the hadith of Khurayb radiallahu ta'ala, Khurayb radiallahu ta'ala, when he was sent, he went to Sham. The people of Sham, they were fasting a separate date, which the people of Medina was not. They were different. They cited the moon differently. This cited this, then later this other one cited this. So, and none of the two countries, Sham and Medina, follow each other. And the hadith is authentic. How can we put together this hadith? The scholars said, if the countries say except they cite their moon, the moon for themselves, then there is no problem again, and one should not blame them for that. And if they say because one country have cited the moon, no problem, we can fast as Muslims, which if the country is a Muslim country, then no problem for them to be blamed again. Let's say, for example, countries with the same time. We have like Saudi Arabia, for example, maybe with Bahrain or Yemen, for example. I think they have the same time. Or let's say Sierra Leone and Guinea. Sierra Leone and Guinea, they have the same time. If Guinea sees the moon, then Sierra Leone have not seen the moon. Is it permissible for Sierra Leone to fast? The scholars, they said, if they have the same time, it's permissible for them to fast. The people of Sierra Leone need to fast. The same if Sierra Leone sees the moon and Guinea does not see the moon, it's permissible for Guinea to fast too. And if Sierra Leone says, no, we're not going to fast by the sighting of Guinea, we want to see the moon for ourselves, there is no problem for them to do so again. That's the same thing if Guinea says, we're not going to fast by the sighting of Sierra Leone, we're going to sight the moon by ourselves, there is no problem for that again. One should not bring enmity for that, because there are narrations which are authentic, and if you put together the narration, there is no problem. And if you act upon one of the narration, there is no problem. One should not blame anyone because of that. Barakallahu fikum. This is the statement of the ulama. Then we've said the moon. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you see the moon, that means we need to search for the moon. Today, most of us, we do not search for the moon. We sit back and wait for Saudi Arabia to announce. La. Sighting the moon is a sunnah. Instead, some of the ulama, they said, is fardun kifai. A fardun kifai or fardun kifaya is a thing which is an obligation upon everyone. But if certain people, they volunteer to do it and they are able to do it, they volunteer to do it, the sin will be dropped for those who do not do it. And if all of them sit back without doing it and they were able to do it, all of them will be sinful. Searching for the moon of Ramadan, the ulama, they said, is fardun kifaya or fardun kifaya. If all of the Muslims sit back without searching for the moon of Ramadan, all of them, as long as they are able to search for it, all of them will be sinful. But if a group of them, they volunteer to do that, then the sin will be dropped for the others. The fardu aini, that is each one of us is obliged on us. For example, prayer or taking wudu. Everyone should do it for himself. This is fardun al-aini. Then we say here we should search for the moon. This is a sunnah, and in fact, this is from the sunnah al-mahjura. So we need to revive the sunnah. Yeah, we need to revive the sunnah to search for the moon. طيب. The Prophet ﷺ said, إذا رأيتموه فصوموا وإذا رأيتموه فأفطروا. Whose information can we accept that he has seen the moon for us to fast? Whose information? Can we accept everyone's information? Let's say, for example, a kafir comes and say, we have sighted the moon. One of the conditions, the person who is going to tell us that he has sighted the moon must be a Muslim. He must not be a fasiq in his aqidah or a fasiq in his muamalat. He must be a Muslim. He must be an adil. طيب على الاستقامة. طيب. Then if he is alone, no problem for that, if he testify for that. Then there are narrations that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. For example, Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he mentioned Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu said, وعن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنه قال ترى الناس الهلال. Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, the people were searching for the moon. فأخبرت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أني رأيته أو إني رأيته. أنا narration أني. Another narration says إني. فأخبرت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إني رأيته. He said that I informed the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم that I have seen the moon. فصام, the Prophet fasted. وأمر الناس بصيام. Then he ordered the people to fast. بصيامه, to fast. رواه أبو داود وصححه الحاكم النيسابوري وابن حبان رحمهم الله تعالى. Here, Abdullah ibn Umar, he was the only one that came. He said, Tara an-nas al-hilal. That means the people, the Sahaba, they were searching for the moon. So this is a sunnah that we should revive. Tara an-nas. They were searching for the moon. Al-hilal. طيب. فأخبرت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, I informed the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم that I have seen the moon. Abdullah ibn Umar is a Muslim. Adil. He's someone upon istiqamah, someone who is righteous, someone who is known for his iffa. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. So because of all of these conditions, and he is matured, and he is someone who have complete, his sense is complete. Yeah, there is no anything that makes him not unconscious. Radiallahu ta'ala. When he came with the message to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ fasted and he ordered the people to fast. He did not ask Abdullah ibn Umar any question. Why? Because he is talking about the diyana of Allah. Then there is another narration that Ibn Abbas عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن عربيا جاء إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال إني رأيت الهلال. A villager came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم and said, Oh Rasulullah, I've sighted the moon. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم did not accept his information. Why? Because he did not know the man. He did not know his religion, his diyana, his akhlaq. He is a fasiq or not a fasiq. The Prophet did not know about that. That is why the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم did not accept his information. What instead the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, فقال أتشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. Do you testify that there is none that deserves to be worshipped in true but Allah alone? قال نعم. The man said yes. قال أتشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. He said, do you testify that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم is Allah? قال نعم. The man said, yes, I testify that. قال. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, فأذن في الناس يا بلال. He said, O Bilal, inform the people for them to أن يصوموا غدا, so that they can fast tomorrow. رواه الخمسة وصححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان ورجح النسائي رسالة. طيب. This hadith again is a dalil that the Muslim is the one that his information is after. The principle says كل خبر يتعلق بالدين فإنه لا يقبل فيه خبر الكافر إلا ببرهان. Any information that is connected to the deen. In Islam, we do not accept the information of the kafir, except the person is a Muslim. So here, the Prophet ﷺ asked two things. Do you believe in Allah? Do you believe that I'm a messenger of Allah? The man said yes. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, Bilal, inform the people. Barakallahu fikum. Then, there is a mas'ala here. Today, let's say today is Wednesday, I think. If today is Wednesday, let's say yesterday was the 29th of Sha'ban, and we were not able to sight the moon, and we have narration that says we should complete Sha'ban to 30 days. Now, in the morning, today we've eaten something, or taken food. Then by 12 in the noon, someone came and said, the moon was sighted. What are we going to do? Are we going to continue to eat? Or are we going to stop eating? Then, if we stop eating, are we going to make up for that day? Or we're not going to make up for that day? The scholars, they've got a difference here. But the correct opinion, which Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah mentioned, rahimahullah ta'ala, is that we should stop eating. Immediately the moon, we've been informed that the moon was sighted yesterday, we should stop eating because it's haram for the person who does not have any excuses to eat during the day of Ramadan. Then after we complete that day, then what we should do? Should we make up for the fast or not? Shaykh al-Islam mentioned that we should not make up for that day. Why? Because we were not informed about it before. And they said what's in they said al-hukmu yaduru ma'a illatihi wujudan wa adaman. Fasting was not an obligation on us before. That is why we ate. And the moment fasting was an obligation, when we were informed that the moon was sighted, we stopped eating. So because of that, the ulama, they said, here, we should stop eating immediately that day, till the evening. At the same time, we should not make up for that day after Ramadan. And Shaykh al-Islam, he mentioned that this is the correct opinion in this. Now, the Prophet said, here, if someone brings the information that he has seen the moon, then the people did not accept his information, is it permissible for him to fast? Someone say, I have sighted the moon. He went to the court and said, I have sighted the moon. They say, no, your information is not accepted. And he is certain that he sighted the moon. Should he fast alone? Or he should wait till the Muslims fast together? The scholars, some of them, they said he should fast alone. Because the Prophet said, they said he should fast alone. Then some of the scholars said, la. Because the Prophet said, al-yawm, asum, yawm tasumun, wal-fitr, yawm tuftirun. Aw kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The sawm is the day you fast together. Breaking is the day you break together. So because of this narration, some of them, they said, it is not permissible. That means the fasting must be together with the Muslims. And those that said it is it is not permissible, they make qiyas with the narration with Arafah. If someone says today is Arafah, he alone says today is Arafah. Can he go to Arafah and stand there? No. Except the other day, which the Muslims, they've got consensus that the other day is what? Is Arafah. And the Muslims will never unite upon falsehood. Kama qala sallallahu alaihi. The Prophet sallallahu mentioned this ummah will never unite upon falsehood. Will never unite upon falsehood. Al ummah la tashtami ala dalala. Naam, upon misguidance. La wallah. La wallah. قد أسم الله هذه الأمة من ذاك. Now, so if the information is rejected, the person should wait with the other Muslims so that they fast together and break the fast together. If one person brings the information of sighting the moon for Ramadan, his information must be accepted. If the conditions are fulfilled. Then if two people bring the information that Ramadan has ended, no problem. But if one person brings the information, his information is not accepted. Why? This is something that scholars have mentioned, that if one person brings the information for the end of Ramadan, his information is not accepted, except two people testifies that they've sighted the moon and all of the conditions are fulfilled in them. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ فَصُومُوا. This is a command. فَصُومُوا. Allah said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. This is a command. The one who have been informed, or he has sighted the moon by himself, then is upon him to fast. One should not do leave up fasting just without an excuse. Then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فَقَدُرُوا لَهُ فَقَدُرُوا لَهُ. If the moon or the cloud becomes a reason for you not to sight the moon on the 30th, 29th of Sha'ban, then complete Sha'ban 30 days. The scholars said, here it shows that the calendar is not used in affirming the coming of Ramadan or the starting of Ramadan. Neither the calendar is used to determine the end of Ramadan. Why? The calendar is not used to affirm the entering of Ramadan. Neither this calendar is used to affirm the ending of Ramadan. That means the moon must be sighted before we start Ramadan or we end Ramadan. Before we end Ramadan or we start Ramadan. بارك الله فيكم. طيب، ومن هذا إن شاء الله نقول إن شاء الله نتوقف هنا بإذن الله تعالى، وأسأل الله تعالى أن يعيننا وأن ينفعنا بما علمنا، إنه سميع قريب. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.